Unemployed and Afraid acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on and of the land where you, the listener, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and extend our respect to any First Nations, Aboriginal, and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today, acknowledging that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the glorious mess of building your own business with the people doing it. I'm your host and fellow business builder, Kim Curtin. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some good, honest, small business chat. Hello there, brave business building human. I hope your day has been good to you. And if it hasn't, I hope this pod brings you some comfort that we here on this podcast truly get your feels and are proud of you for showing up to build yourself and your business. We're both super privileged to hear the stories our guests share with us, and how I find these wonderful people is no big mystery. Sometimes I find them in my social media circle, friendship circle, industry circle. Sometimes I'll get a wonderful publicity email, an opportunity to meet somebody that's come through. And sometimes I just walk into their business and go, holy shit, who has created this incredible thing? And that's how I found today's wonderful guest, Eugenie Hows, who's owner of Plant Vibes Café and Kin Official. I walked into her stunning cafe in Brisbane, which you'll hear a little bit more about in a moment, and it just felt different. The menu was solely plant-based, which is naturally a big win for this plant-based loving gal, but it just felt loved, kind of personal, like walking into someone's house where that someone has taken a lot of care in the decor vibe and, of course, the menu, and it's a bit of an expression of them. Small business is so personal. It's always an expression of you, even if you didn't mean to design it that way. And I believe that comes about when you truly lose yourself in the undoing and learning process that is in being in business for yourself. In the sharing of her story, you'll hear us chat today about when intuition kicks in and changes your professional course completely, and what it's like doing a 180 from the career you've studied for and worked in to undertake a business that you have no experience in. Jumping in without a plan and surviving/thriving to tell the story. Bouncing back from hiring the wrong people, accidentally upsetting people with your marketing. That's a fun one. The experience of hiring and managing people within an industry you don't have any personal experience with. Why you should get unproductive sometimes. What it's like to enter into a new business partnership with someone you don't know, and balancing two very different businesses to grow. She is crazy inspiring in her approach and an all-round lovely human. Let's get into the chat. I'm here with Eugenie Hows, owner of two amazing businesses, Plant Vibes Café in Brisbane and vegan handbag brand Kin Official. I'll start off with Plant Vibes Café, which is hands down the best plant-based cafe in Brisbane. And I can tell you this from personal experience, having visited it twice over a 2-day holiday period, with a plant-based menu that will knock your socks off, even if you're not solely plant-based. I'm talking ginger cappuccinos topped with cream, a brunch gnocchi, which seriously is just so needed in this world, and smoothies, stacked croissants, and more. I legit cannot believe it's all vegan. With a huge social following and adorable merch, it's no surprise it's a must-visit pin on the map. And then there's Kin Official, ethically luxurious handbags for your highest self that are vegan, cruelty-free, and cool as hell, as well as referring quite literally to their family ties, with Kin founded by 2 sisters and 1 cousin. Kin embodies the idea of sisterhood and community, that we are all connected. And they are on a mission to tread lightly on this earth and celebrate Mother Nature and sustainable living, taking integrity and social justice seriously as proud makers of ethically manufactured handbags to elevate your everyday, making consciousness your best accessory. Eugenie, I am so excited to hear all about your business, plural, journey. Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid.
Thank you. And thank you for coming to the cafe 2 days in a row.
Oh, seriously, we came in, my partner and I, on that short weekend trip, and I think we had just smoothies for the first part.
I was going to say, you guys were the smoothies, weren't you? Because I came up and then, you're like, it's the best smoothie I've ever had.
Literally was the best smoothie we've ever had. And we have a lot of smoothies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for creating it. It's really nice to find a space that is so welcoming and really prioritizes good food. I like that. It's a very nice vibe. We're looking forward to our next Brisbane trip already. Now, tell me, I would love to know a little more about you. How would your best friend describe you?
My first thought is not present because I never see them or I don't see them that often. Like definitely make the time like once every 2 months. It's not as often as I'd like at the moment because I've stepped into now like a new phase, having the second business where it's back to a growth phase for that business, non-existent. But like when we're all together, I think pretty high energy. Yeah, life of the party. But that's like the occasions where I do see them, which isn't too much.
I can completely relate to that. I think, having to duck out and be non existent to a lot of people is an experience so many business owners can relate to. And the listeners probably thinking right now about shit, how long has it been since I've seen that person or done that thing? Because, yeah, it does take up a lot of your headspace, this gig.
If I speak to them through responding to their stories, oh my gosh, you're here. Oh my gosh, you're there. Yeah, but it definitely does. It just isn't phases sometimes. It's like a season, you're so much more available. And then sometimes other things take priority.
Absolutely. So before Plant Vibes Cafe, before Kin, who were you?
That's a good question. I think I was still figuring it out. Yeah, trying to figure it out. I was working as a beauty therapist, which was what I had done after high school because I didn't know what else to do. I knew I didn't want to go to university. I'm not a citizen of Australia as well, so it wasn't something I could just put on HEC. So I was like, if I'm not certain I want to go, I do not want to fork out money because I couldn't pay it off later. So I liked painting my nails in school. So I just decided to do beauty therapy in school because you could start in school. And I thought, at least it's something. I don't know what I want to do. So I was doing that for 4 years. And I think I was really good at it, but it was never my passion and my love. So again, I guess before this, I was figuring it out, like what I actually was wanting to do, who I was. And I knew I always had this feeling, I just knew that I wanted to do big things, but I just didn't know where to start or what. So I was just running a beauty business, going to the gym, going to cafe, lots of cafes in Brisbane. Like it's a bit of a trend, going to a cafe every day, and probably a lot more social as well, going out all the time.
Tell me a little more about your beauty therapy journey then and running that business. What was your turning point around your beauty therapy work and putting that to the side?
So I was living in Perth and I was at the stage where then I was managing a skin clinic and I had moved away from beauty and got more into the dermal side of things, which was something that really had my interest. So I decided to move to Brisbane to study dermal science with a college, like an aesthetics medicine college in Brisbane. So I moved here to study that because to me, that was naturally then if I liked skin, I may as well get really good at the skin side. So I moved to Brisbane. And then while I was studying that, it was a pretty expensive course. So I was working in a laser clinic and then I started to do clients on the side and then got quite busy with clients. So I just went into working for myself just as a sole trader. I didn't have any staff. I just felt like it was a really flexible way to work around my study and doing clients and building on that. And then naturally, I thought, oh, I want to open a skin clinic. So I started looking at places and how to go about it. I thought then that was like the next thing that I would do. And in that industry with like injectables and laser, there is good money in it. So I was like, okay, I'll do this because that's the next thing. Like I was heading towards finishing the course. And then I found out that I had gotten a spot for the laser clinic. It was actually near my cafe, like just down the road from my cafe. And they were like, yeah, like we can go ahead with this. And then when I found that out, instead of being really excited, oh my gosh, I've got this spot as you naturally would be, I was like, oh no, now I have to open this laser clinic. And I was like, I guess it would be like a 5-year thing. And I was like, oh, so that's what I'm doing for the next 5 years. And something just didn't feel right, but it's like that intuition that kicks in, even though logically it all makes sense. And I had made the move to study this. And then shortly after finding that out, I had to then stop actually operating my beauty business because it was in 2020, like in the beginning. I think it was like around February or March. So I actually had to stop working. And that was quite stressful as well. Like not being a citizen of Australia, there wasn't that help. And then when I stopped, because I feel like So often we keep ourselves so busy. I know I do so busy, like hustling all the time, especially like when you're in the beginning of something, you never actually sit and stop and realize how you're feeling. And that's something that I've learned to do, meditate and be a bit more present. And when I stopped and just I was sitting in my apartment for days and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on the wrong path. This isn't for me. I'm good at it, but I just knew something was off and it's made me feel really anxious because I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was so far down this other road that I knew wasn't right for me. And then I just had remembered I was driving back to Brisbane from visiting my family. And then I just remembered I thought about the idea of having a cafe. It had been in my head for many years, but it was never something that was actually like a realistic thing. It was just like imagine if I had a cafe, but then it stopped there. And then I was driving and I just was thinking about a cafe and it was this feeling I have never had where I don't know how to explain it. My whole body was just like tingling and my heart was racing. And like you just have about some things a knowing, like you just have this knowing. And I just was like, oh, I need to open a cafe. And I told my family, and I've got a really great family, but I think they had some concerns, especially the fact that cafes also were operating as takeaway only. And I didn't have hospitality experience. And naturally, they had quite a few concerns. And they were, but you've just spent all this money and spent this last year studying this. What are you talking about? And I've always been a very impulsive person. So they're like, oh, this is just like another impulsive thing that she's doing. Oh, no. But I just did a Google search to find a lease, and it was like 100 meters down the road from where I was living as well. I went and checked it out, and I just was like, yeah, I'll take it. Like maybe 2 days later. So then I was like, oh, I'm doing it. And even though it was like so uncertain and I was terrified and so scared, even with all of that, it just felt right. And I was like, why does this feel right? This should feel wrong. Because just because of the nature of not having the experience or the knowledge or anything like that, I was like, this should feel wrong, but it just feels right. And then because I was feeling so anxious as well, knowing I was in the wrong place, suddenly when I took on all this responsibility, it made me feel at ease and calm. And I was like, that's so interesting. Like how it just doesn't make sense sometimes, but you know of a feeling that it's your right direction.
Oh, I love that. I love the way you describe that kind of full body tingling and that just that sense and that intuition that this feels right and I need to lean into more of that. It's such a scary, exciting space to be sitting in. And you raise such an interesting point about our friends and our family and those closest to us. And they always have the best of intentions with us to say, are you sure? What about this? What about that? Whenever you share an idea or something you want to do with them. And I think it's a really hard place for someone who wants to go down any kind of business path to then see their most favorite valued people have doubts. I think that is like the hardest thing because you know it's from the best of intentions, like they care about you and they want to make sure that you've thought about everything. But you please don't rain on my parade. Please don't give me any negativity because any little thing can break you in that moment and be like, you know what, I don't want to disappoint them or I don't want to scare them or I don't want to do anything like that. Sometimes that can be enough to stop people. And I'm just so glad that it didn't for you in that stage and you kept going because it's so easy for that to happen. And no one ever means to do it. Our family is like, they never mean to do
No.
that. But yeah, it's a scary place.
Yeah, but I feel like they think that's what's best for us. But even if I was to try it and fail, I think that still would have been what the best thing for me would have been. And I think when they think they're doing the best thing, like for us, they're doing the best thing for them because then they don't have to go through the grief of watching us fail. So it's like, looking out for them, but they think it's looking out for us. And I guess like the odds of hospitality, like new cafes and restaurants, the failure rate is like 70, 80%. And my mum and dad, when I was younger, had a lot of financial struggle, like very severe financial struggle. And I think as well, my mum, she didn't want that for me. And if it was to fail, like I had literally spent my life savings on it. I didn't get a loan just because I just had this knowing. I was like, I just know it's going to be fine. But then she sees it as, oh, like that's your security. And she didn't want me to then struggle. Because I think I was 22. So she's, you have a good start with this money you've saved. So she's like, don't throw it all away and worry that I would go through the same thing as them. But I just think if we do things and fail, like it's the best thing for us.
Yes, I love that. I need to print that out and put it on my wall. What were the first few steps that you took then after signing that lease? What did you do to start making it real?
I did everything in the wrong step because I hadn't done it before. So the steps I'm going to say, this isn't anything that anybody should ever follow off. Like, do your own research.
That's the vibe of this entire podcast. Let's
Yeah.
not actually follow each other, but let's just learn for each other.
So I found the spot and I didn't have a name, but usually I know you should like register the name first, set up the company, then find the spot. But I found a spot, signed a lease, didn't have a name for it. And then I found a coffee supplier. I was like, because I've been going to a cafe a lot and loved their coffee. So I contacted them like, hey, I'm opening a cafe, don't know when, don't know a name. Can I use your beans? And usually that's one of the last things you do when they were like, oh, this is like a really odd time for you to do this. I was like, I'm doing it. Yeah, found the lease, found the place, and then thought of a name. My little sister actually helped me. She just said, we're throwing around names. And she was like, what about Plant Vibe? So that was her idea. And then I registered that. And then I think I started looking for some builders to help with the fit out, getting quotes. And then I know everything else. I didn't have it mapped out nicely as you would with a nice business plan. It was like a book of just random scribbled notes. And then it was just a race to do it in whatever order. And so many things I had in the wrong order as well. And then I had to backtrack a little bit. But I just tried to now, because I had 3 months of free rent. So from the time you sign the lease, they give you 3 months. So then I was like, okay, now it's just a race to finish as much as I can in 3 months so I don't run out of money. So just doing even like the business cards I got so early on. And then I left some things that should have been done months in advance to like the last few days. So it was a mess.
Oh, it's so relatable. How many of, I just feel like the listener will be going like, yes, it's literally me. Like I'm constantly like backtracking from what I should have done, gone, oh, because I didn't do that the first time. Now I have to go back and do it again. Okay, cool. So,
And that's why as well, I think if people are ever contemplating opening a business, yes, it definitely helps to know things and to do your research and stuff like that. But also, if you're going to put it off for years and years and years because you don't have it all sorted and you don't know the steps, like you can just try and make a few mistakes and get it done. Or you can wait years and years, but you'd still make mistakes and years because it's something you hadn't done before. So I think, yeah, like I just started, gave it a crack and just had to keep rearranging. And I did 100 trips to Bunnings because I kept buying the wrong tools and stuff. But like, I think the key is just to start and you just figure it out along the way.
absolutely. Perfection is the death of progress. I couldn't agree with you more. What was the scariest thing that happened through that time pre-setup?
I think it was my initial shift that I opened with because I had never made a coffee. Like I opened a cafe and never myself had made a coffee before. So I was hiring everybody that knew everything that I didn't. And it got to, I had to have a chef by a certain date to start then writing a menu. I had written it, but just taste testing and putting together everything and setting up the kitchen. And I found a guy and I just knew, I was like, this guy is not right, but I was running out of time. So that was the scariest thing. It was like the gross feeling. I had this like yuck feeling because I was like, I know this guy's not right, but there was something really off about it. And when you have people on your team, like now I know I'm capable of doing it all. So I always have the right people on my team, but I just was like, I don't know why this isn't right, but also not having a chef and not opening isn't right. That was scary to me because I didn't know why I had that feeling. And again, like it was like my gut feeling, but and obviously it didn't work out. And then I had to deal with that later down the track. But my priority in the beginning was getting open. So I think it was just that one staff member that really rocked me. But the rest, it was just exciting.
Oh, I can imagine it was a pretty overwhelming and exciting experience opening the doors for the first time. What was that first day like for you?
I think I cried all day. Like, it was amazing. So many people came in, like bringing me flowers, and all my friends were there. And my sister, I didn't expect her to come, and my older sister, I hadn't seen her in quite a while, and she showed up. And as well, my parents were overseas. They weren't able to make it for months and months until after I opened. So I think it was just, it was the most exciting thing. It was like surreal the whole day. But I think like lots of tears and like friends were crying. So then I was crying and we're just a bunch of really like emotional females on the day.
I love that. You're like, I know everyone's crying, but do you want to buy something also while you're here?
Yeah. And also then we spent the day, like even all the systems, we had QR codes, we had all these printers, we didn't know if they were properly hooked up. The POS system, the internet was cutting in and out. So it was just like, it was just a full on day because as well, we were learning how to use all the systems and we were so busy. Like I thought the day you open, I did it on a weekend as well. This is something that after I announced the open day was a Saturday, all the people the contacts I had made in the industry were like, why would you open on a Saturday? I was like, oh, because it's the day my friends have off. And they're like, do you know that everyone is going to come in and it's going to be crazy? And I didn't expect that. They said you should open on a weekday so you can get the hang of it before then you have like your big weekend launch. So we were trying to learn how to do everything while we had just the whole cafe full all day of customers. So just even like little things like that. Yeah. But because I think I was running on adrenaline that day, like nothing was getting me down. It was just pure adrenaline.
I love it. That sort of advice is so valuable, and it's so great that the industry reached out to support you in that. And it's in retrospect, you could be like, oh, I wish I did this. Sometimes if you just go for things and just do it. I launched my podcast on, I think it was like the 13th of December. And at the time, this is just when I'm doing it. And then I realized, oh shit, it's Christmas in 2 weeks. So everyone's going to stop listening over Christmas period anyway. So it's a bit like you wouldn't just have it any other way once you look at it in retrospect. It's like the experience is the experience.
Yeah, it was perfect. Like it was chaotic, but no, it was perfect the way it all happened.
Oh, so great. How did you get yourself out there? How did you get yourself known?
I just made an Instagram account and then just wrote opening soon. And I think this was during the 3 month lockdown. We were so fortunate in Brisbane. I think we only spent 3 months properly locked down. So lucky. But I think so many people were on their phones then during that time and people were like getting so excited to start dining out again. So what I did is I just started an Instagram page weeks beforehand showing, because I like built all the tables myself. So it was like, I'm building the tables, I'm painting the floor, I'm painting the toilet, my coffee cups arrived. I was just documenting all of that. And I feel like it was entertaining for people. So we grew quite a big following before we had even opened the doors and just like posting, this is our coffee supplier. And then I remember I tried some raw treats that I was really keen to have. And then I like filmed myself eating all of them and then put that up. So people were like following along the journey. So I think like people got like an emotional investment and then just posted across lots of hospitality Facebook groups like, hey, I'm opening, this is the opening day. And there's these, because it's a plant-based cafe, and there are these plant-based vegan, I don't really say vegan much. I feel like plant-based seems so much friendlier, but they're like these vegan markets in Brisbane. And I thought, oh, it'd be such a good idea to go and hand out like a bunch of vouchers. So I went there and I was handing out the vouchers like, hey, like I'm opening a vegan cafe because I'm like, these are my people. They're all vegan. So they'd be customers. And then again, it's like learning. I then got contacted by the market. They were pretty cross with me for going there and handing out. And they're like, you're taking away from people that are paying to be there. And it's like, it's the stuff that like, when you're trying to get your name out, you think of all the fun ideas. I was like, I can go like chat with people, but then you don't think it through. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And it's just like learning. But I think just a mixture of all of those things really helped to get the name out.
Yeah, you just got to try these things sometimes, don't you? I know I saw.
And apologize when you make a mistake.
Yeah, ask for forgiveness, not permission. I think it's something like that. I know I thought about creating like stickers for the podcast, just like putting them out, running like street stickers. And I was like, oh, I so want to do that. But then I was like, oh, but then it's like putting stuff out into the world, like sticking on things. And I was like, and I don't want someone to get mad at me. So
like I ruined the sign. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, you got to have these ideas and try and do whatever you can. You mentioned before staff and getting people in and not having worked in hospitality before. What was the experience like working with people and managing people who have spent time in a business or in an industry that you hadn't spent time in yet? What was that experience like?
That was very intimidating. I think actually, yeah, like it was more the realization of that everybody I had hired, bar maybe one person, was older than me and everybody was more experienced than me. They literally knew I put all the pieces together, but I didn't know as such in the beginning how to actually do things. So when I was getting it open, it didn't even cross my mind. I was too busy like being like, oh, get it all done, like whatever. But then I think I developed like massive insecurities a weekend when I realized like all of these people are looking to me like, what do we do? And then I myself, I'm like, I don't know what we do. I haven't had a cafe. So just act completely confident, calm, but no, it was very intimidating. And then as well, like you make up stories about, I think like the first few months I really struggled with I'm not good enough, I'm not intelligent, they all know more than me. So it was then like having these stories come up and working through that. And then also when I was interviewing, I was so busy doing everything, I didn't reflect to think, what am I going to ask these people? So we sit down and I'm like, wait, what do I ask someone? Because I didn't know if I should ask about their latte art and all of that. So I sat down and it just ended up being a chat because I didn't know what I should be asking. And now I've got like my full like page full of my essential questions to get the understanding of the right people. But yeah, it was once I had opened, that became the scariest thing. It was then like, okay, how do I lead people who all know more than me?
Yeah, I can just imagine that would have been really overwhelming. And again, another thing that too often allows us to stop doing it. And you don't learn these things until you do them. If you wait to be an expert in something, you'll just never get it done. Although it might feel intimidating and overwhelming, like that's when the best learning comes. Like, why not
Yeah,
go for it?
and it was through just making the mistakes. And I knew exactly what kind of workplace and what kind of culture I wanted to create with the team, just because I had so many experiences with bosses in the past where I wasn't treated well and they would say really awful things and people would say awful things to other staff members. And I knew what kind of place I wanted to create and what kind of team I wanted to have and what I knew made me feel amazing when I was in a workplace. So I knew what I wanted to do for them, but I didn't know how to do it. And again, like it's a thing, you don't feel ready. And there were so many things, so many mistakes, like lack of communication that I had in the beginning. And I was so fortunate the people that I did hire, because I hired based on not necessarily the skill, because I didn't know what to ask them, just the people that I felt like you could feel they had kind energy. That sounds real hippie, but like kind energy. So when I made mistakes, no one held it against me. They were so forgiving. So I think the key was hiring people that were so forgiving and understanding and supportive because they liked what they could see I was trying to create, as opposed to if you were creating an unsupportive workplace. I don't think people are going to be so forgiving when you make mistakes, but they could see what I was trying to build. So I was so lucky to have, while I was learning, staff that were okay with knowing I was learning, because I was very vocal. I was like, this is what I want to create. This is how I want you guys to feel when you come to work. So can you help me create that?
Oh, co-creation. Is there anything better? Like community, it's what we all need is to, yeah, do something together and bring people along on the journey. I think so often the temptation is to project absolute confidence when there is none. And it's like the balance between fake it till you make it and also being honest and vulnerable enough to invite people along on the journey with you. I think that's the kind of the new fake it till you make it, which is like just be real.
Yeah, but that like the thing that I have, even now, I probably struggle with. It's a balance between like my staff knowing that even I have bad days and stuff like that, but then also I need to go on and be the solid rock that nothing shakes me. And I'm like, it's fine, like it's no big deal, like calm, all that. So being vulnerable and being like, I'm having a really hard time because I've had in the background of all of this, obviously, like you have major life events and grief and relationship breakdown. So I don't want them to bring all of their problems to work. So then I can't come in and as an all crying, oh, I am bliss that like just putting on the brave face. But it's like, even now, I don't have it, the balance between being real, like rock solid for them and then being vulnerable. Like it's very hard to do both, but I'm still figuring that bit out.
Yeah, likewise. I think we all are. What was it like in terms of figuring out your cash flow and your finances through this period? Because I do feel like from the outset, hospitality feels like one of the scarier things to manage in terms of incomings, outgoings, and things like that. What was that experience like for you?
So To begin with, I just like before I was opening it, my dad and my sister both advised me to learn all of the accounting. And they said, you need to know all of this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And then you've got to reconcile your accounts every week. And you have 40 or 50 invoices a week from all of your suppliers, from like power, your chemicals, your electricity, all of your cost of goods, your coffee, your milk, your rent, getting the bins emptied, like everything. So I kept being like, oh, like I'll get to it later because right now I'm actually busy. And I had someone just doing my payroll because I wasn't about to try to pay with all the different award rates and qualifications. I was like, that's something that I just know is not worth my time. I need to focus on growing the business. And I kept sweeping it to the side for probably like the first 4 to 5 months. And then I actually didn't know. I knew that we were making money because because we're offering such a niche product, we have been so lucky where we have had our customers coming in from the beginning, but I didn't know what the figures were like at all. And I didn't know what my cost of goods was or what my staffing costs was. And this is what people had recommended to me. You should know from the beginning. And I was like, yeah, I'll figure it out soon. And then I ended up then having to hire an accountant and pay thousands and thousands to fix all of the stuff I've been sweeping under the rug. And then he was a friend of my husband of my friends. So then he was really straight with me. He's like, we're going to do like a crash course and you need to be on top of this, and ran me through a little education session. But it was something that I just kept sweeping under the rug because, again, like being a solo owner, I think from my experience, I've seen most cafes have 2 or 3 owners, So again, like it's something that I just figured out as I went, and I just had to deal with the fact that because I kept ignoring it, it was an expensive mess to fix in the end. But no, it was a lot, like understanding the back end of what it all means. Just another thing I learned from making a mistake.
Just the best way to learn. But yeah, I can imagine that would have been very overwhelming. All of a sudden, you're like, holy moly.
Yeah, if you had the time and actually did the research, like definitely do any research you can do. It's so valuable. I just was busier doing other things and didn't prioritize it because of my time schedule. But if you can learn, I think that would be one of the best things, because then in terms of your area of focus, because with a cafe, it's your cost of goods, right? You can see the fact that it's gone up. And if it's gone up, it means like we're putting not the right amount of things on a plate, or things are going missing. We're having too much food wastage, or the cost of each dish is too much. So you know exactly which area of your business you should be working on. So I think like knowing the numbers is so important. And yeah, if you can't figure it out before you open or start whatever kind of business, like I would put it as a very high priority to learn a little bit later. I wouldn't wait as long as I did, because it's just knowing where you are at and knowing what you need to work on is probably one of the biggest factors of success, I think.
Tell me how Kin came about. So you already sound very busy and very exciting, running a cafe and getting all that off the ground. How did Kin come into the world?
So I was at this stage, after we had lots of staff shortages for so long, and there were periods where I was working 7 days a week. And then suddenly I had some really good full-time staff in, good manager, all of that. And then I was working like in the actual cafe. I got down to working like 4 days a week, and then I could have a day or two to do all the admin stuff. And then for me, that felt like I had tons of spare time. So I was like, oh my gosh, all this spare time. Because I've never really taken days off, because I just love like the marketing and like the planning. And I spend my days off doing like the creative stuff. So then suddenly when I had all the time to do this, I was like, oh my gosh, so much spare time. Wow, this is amazing. So I was then looking at opening another venue. I was going to open another cafe, and I had come with a business plan. It was a bit of a different concept, and looked at, the venue, and we got a really good deal. And then suddenly the full-time staff member that I had in place was going to leave hospitality. So then I stepped back in, and then it just didn't feel like the right time to then venture out, because then suddenly Plant Vibes, it is, I guess, a bigger venue. We do 60 seat 65. So then that needed me. And I just was like, okay, I feel like this is a mistake. Until this is perfectly being run and actually can operate without me, I'm not going to. So then I passed up the opportunity, but I just kept thinking, I just want to start like in the same area, because it is like a ethical business and we are trying to become very sustainable. I wanted something that aligned, that I could then throw more creative work into and have a business that did have a positive impact on the planet. And I'm very big on law of attraction and putting things out there. Like I believe it so strongly. And I had been saying, I really feel like if I can't handle another venue right now, just by myself being the only owner, I want a business that is online, but it has a creative aspect. It aligns with my values. And I just was thinking, I kept looking at online businesses and I kept thinking, I want to do something in e-commerce that can fuel a passion of mine. And then I had a regular customer, Sarah, and she would come in every single weekend without fail and buy donuts. And we had talked in the way that I would serve her, but nothing more than that. And one night there was a bunch of urgent things I had to do, and I didn't even know where to start. So then I decided to go and stalk my customers on Instagram instead of doing all the urgent things, because that's what you do. That's what you do. And I just was like, what does Sarah do in her spare time? And clicked on her because we have all them on the Instagram. And then I came across Kin and I was like, what? Sarah runs this handbag business? Like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I saw her in the cafe the next week and I was like, what is this handbag brand you have? I was like, I can't believe I don't know about this. And we got talking about it. And she was having some challenges. She started it with some family members, and I think they weren't all quite to a mutual understanding of what it was going to take to grow it, and like the expectations around the fact that it is quite challenging to build a business and you have to be all in. So the other business partners decided to step out, and they had other priorities that they couldn't put before Kin. And it wasn't making any sales or doing anything. And Sarah was about to sell off all of the stock because she just was like, I can't do this by myself. Like, she's in a full-time job in comms, like a very good job. So it requires a lot of energy. And she's like, I can't do this by myself. And then she just, because she was about to sell off all the stock, she bought in a handbag for me. And it was like the same feeling as I had when I was driving that day. And I just was like, every part of my body was like, yes, like just a knowing. And she came with this bag. And then I took it down the road. I went to a cafe to sit and do some work. And I opened it and I was just like, oh, like this is it. So I thought I'd send her an email. I was like, this is totally wild. I'm just asking if I can join your business. And I was like, what if she responds badly? What if she thinks like I'm trying to take it off her? What if I didn't even know you, but I just had this feeling. I was like, I just feel like this is like what I've been looking for. And it happened so randomly. So I just said, are you open to chatting further about me stepping into the business and helping you grow this? I said, I see so much in this and what it could be and like the impact that we could make with this, because I truly feel like when it comes to vegan fashion, you don't have many options. Like, we create really high quality luxury items. And I think for me, I've always wanted to have a really nice handbag, but I'm not going to buy designer brands just because I personally don't buy leather. So if you go to the shopping centers, there's like Colette. What are those brands? They're just like the costume jewelry. And again, that's low quality, fast fashion. You don't have it for long. So it had been something that I had always as well been like, I wish there was an incredible, feels like designer handbag, but for vegan. So I believed in it so much. And I thought this can really make such a difference and a change. So I sent her an email and I was like, she's going to think I'm absolutely crazy. And then she responded and she was like, this just feels like what I have been wanting for so long. I can't believe this. Please step in, do this with me. This is just a miracle. This is my dream come true. Someone now that I can keep doing this, because I had such a vision for this and I have felt so disappointed that it didn't turn out to be what I thought it was. So we had many meetings and just we realized as well, we were like, an important thing is I want to join the business if we have opposite strengths, because if we're good at the same things and not good at the same things, I just don't see it as something that then we're going to make a lot of progress together. But we realize our strengths were the total opposite. And then obviously there's two of us now, so there's actually the time to do it. So then just jumped straight into it. And yeah, that's how it's come about. And it was everything that I had wanted. And it's presented its own challenges just because I'm used to designing menus and cooking for 60 people. So again, like when I joined it to start with, you go through all those limiting beliefs. And I kept thinking, oh, now what if I'm not smart enough to do this? I don't know what I'm doing. What if Sarah now is disappointed and thinks I'm dumb, I'm stupid? Because I had to learn all the systems. It's like product-based businesses are very different to service-based, but worked through it. And we have such big aligned plans for Kin. So right now, all of the products, they are made out of a PU, which is essentially like a plastic. It is recycled, like the bag is made with lots of recycled items. So still, it is a lot more sustainable than if you go to the store and buy something. But for us to be able to reach our goals, we need to get access to like pineapple leather or apple leather or cactus leather. So those are very expensive materials, hard to get your hands on, but those are truly sustainable. So we really want to work towards becoming one of the most sustainable fashion labels in the world. So now we are just working towards that. So we need to be, maybe the company needs to be triple the size, and then we then can unlock access to those materials. So that's really our mission now. And we have made sure as well, so well aligned, where it's all the postage that it comes in, it's decomposable and like recycled materials and stuff, and it's made ethically, where it's also like the animals are treated well, but so are the people behind manufacturing for us. So yeah, we're just now, our mission is to grow it so we can become sustainable.
Amazing. That is such a cool story. And I just love hearing it because, yeah, you never know when something you don't even realize you're missing in your life is going to come in, and remaining really open to that and what that could look like. And the worst thing that could have happened in that instance is they say, no, it doesn't feel right for me right now, or this isn't exactly what I was hoping for in terms of your business partner, maybe turning you down at that stage. So what a gutsy thing to just go for it and see where it goes. And yeah, you just never know what's going to be around the corner. That's so exciting. How do you balance now the mental load of these two businesses, learning something new and problem solving? I saw a meme the other day and it was like normal people, and it was like a little picture of Homer Simpson in his bed sleeping, all like happy. And then there was on the other side like entrepreneurs, and it's Homer with his eyes wide open and a million ideas flying around his head, being like new branding, social media ideas, finance things I need to do, reconciliation, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like all the stuff you have to think about. There's so much mental load. How do you do it with two businesses?
It's definitely, again, I think with so many businesses, or maybe even all of them, you go through a really uncomfortable, weird phase of you don't have enough resources, workload, and money to hire other people, but there's too much work for you to do. So there's too much work for Sarah and I to do, but there's not enough, the stage that we're at. And obviously, like, we want to keep our budget more in marketing. So we can't hire other people yet. So right now, it is really like a big juggling and balancing act. But as soon as we can hire someone, then that it's just like a season. I find lots of to-do lists, and something that I read the best book recently. What is it called? I think it's called 10x is easier than 2x. And basically, it's saying like the 10x moves are the massive things that are going to increase money coming into the business. And like the 2x things are the small things that you could get somebody else to do. So it's also learning how to prioritize, because so many times I feel so overwhelmed with all the things that I've got to do. So I'll do my to-do list, but how, like, I have then not set it into what is my priority to move the needle hugely today. So I end up being busy all day, but getting nothing done. That's a massive mistake that I have made quite a lot of times. So now it's about prioritizing what will make the biggest moves today and having that priority, and which one is going to make a 10 times impact rather than just a little 2 times impact, and getting comfortable with and asking somebody else to do the 2 times thing. So the staff more with the cafe, instead of just being like, it's easier if I do it myself, it's quicker if I do it myself, because it is, but in the long run, then I will be every week doing that little 2 times movement. And often the massive things that are going to make the massive change, it would be the hardest thing on your to-do list for the day. So now I try to start with the thing that I'm dreading and avoiding, that I kept pushing off to, I'll do it after lunch, I'll do it tonight, I'll do it first. And that tends to be the thing that's going to have the biggest impact. So I think just every day asking myself, I literally ask myself, but is this like a 10 times or is this a 2 times? So asking that question, and then also being like, not what do I want to do today, but what is the priority need to be today? Because I read this book 2 or 3 weeks ago, just before I just took a trip in Melbourne. It was the first time where I have almost fully switched off. So then while I was away having this fresh in my head, I have been thinking with my staffing structure right now as well. There's so much space for me to be able to be doing more 10x moves and have them doing more of the 2x. So now this week I've been seeing where I can implement it. So that's been a massive thing. And I feel like it can be a bit almost confronting. Like when I was listening to the book, I was like, I feel attacked right now because I realize I have wasted a lot of time because I haven't known this skill. But then also sometimes trying to allow myself to be unproductive, to be productive, where like I was telling you before we jumped on this podcast, going and taking saunas. So even though it feels like a waste of time going and relaxing and doing something for you, it's just been, I have from the beginning, even if I've only had a few hours sleep, like I'll make sure I do some kind of movement, which is good for me. Like I've maintained like having a routine where I push myself to go to the gym. And if I don't feel like, I'm not saying if you don't feel like doing it, then push yourself anyway. If I don't feel like going and lifting really heavy weights, then I'll still go to keep the habit, but I will take it easier on myself. Like I feel like I do what I know I need, but I think it's still going and sauntering, doing all the gyms, no matter how busy you are, when you can just do things for yourself, it allows you the ability to keep going. I think that if you just hustle and never have time for yourself, that is less productive than just taking out the hour every day for yourself. And now instead of starting the day by jumping straight into emails and just jumping up, okay, work, I take the first hour to do things for myself and ease into it. And then once I'm in, I'm going. Definitely meditating. I can't say I do it every day. I aspire to do it every day. Sometimes it happens at nighttime, but I just think as well, that helps to align the energy for the day. And I find when I do that and when I go and train, it's good stress relief for me, but I can be better for my staff. And stress doesn't get to me as much when I have trained. So I just think no matter how busy you get, no matter how many things you get done, I would still, as your priorities for the day, have going to the gym or movement or walk or whatever you like. Like that is such a big thing. And I feel like that is how also I have maintained doing as much as I do.
Oh, I love that advice so much. Like it's just so very valuable and it's so easy to forget. I do it myself all the time is let me just not go do this hour class or 45-minute class or something because that's you calculate it's an hour and a half out of that day. Okay, so then I get back. What if I can't get back into it straight away? What if I don't have the energy when I get back? Oh, I could just push through and get this one thing done and then it's the end of the day and then I can relax. Or I really feel like I need to have the full weekend off just to rest. And I'm like, okay, but in order to get to that, I'm going to push, do as much as I can and then fall in a heap at the end of it. And I think it's just such a normal cycle we go through. And I couldn't relate more to the benefits of taking those times for yourself. And yeah, meditation has played a really huge role for me as well through this. And it goes up and down. And sometimes I lay there and I just think about work while I'm meditating, but at least I'm showing up.
At least you're maintaining the habit because I'm the same. Sometimes I feel like I'm floating and sometimes I'm like getting so frustrated at myself. I'm like, this is not doing anything, but I think it is just staying consistent. And it took a very long time before I was actually able to go and have a holiday where I didn't work. But I think if you had the option, and maybe you'll go back a little bit with your task list, if you have the option to go and do that, then I would definitely go and do it because I found I had been reading a lot of books before I went to Melbourne and then actually going and having a few days off where I wasn't worried about work. Did I start to then just remember all the things and have all these light bulb moments and be like, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I feel like going and taking that time out pushed me now really far ahead and having just a new perspective. So starting a business and having a holiday straight away is not really doable a lot of the time. But I just think like then if you get the opportunity to go and do it, it will push you really far ahead, even though it feels like you're going backwards.
I couldn't agree more. It is all about allowing your brain to make those connections and get the space to make those connections. So yes, 100% with you on that. I have enjoyed this conversation so much and learnt so much from you and your experience. And I am so excited to see you grow. I can absolutely imagine more cafes in your future. And I can absolutely see your business growing in terms of kin as well and where that might take you as well. And it is such a gift to share people the insight of how you've gotten to where you are now and the nitty gritty of the journey that happens along the way. It's such a gift to give. So, my last question to you is how can the listener and I support you now to go through this next stage of growth? What can we do to support you?
Oh, thank you. Just there's so much power in social media. So I would say the biggest thing, and this is with any business, I guess you go to any cafe, if you go in, post a story, because that then exposes, it might be one post on your story, but then say 300 people watch your story, that's 300 people seeing it. And I guess it costs you nothing. That is given you go somewhere and like you feel like you got good value and you actually liked it. But if you go in sharing your experience and then obviously going and following both of the Instagrams, that would be a massive help to us because social media growth is, yeah, so powerful. I don't know what businesses did before the time of social media. I can't even get my head around that. But yeah, it would definitely be going and yeah, following us.
Amazing. I'm going to make sure to put the links to both of the pages in the show notes so that the listener can go and click and follow. And definitely, if you're in the local area, absolutely must go and try that gnocchi brunch situation because it's pretty fantastic. Eugenie, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And congratulations on going on this journey and trusting yourself into this journey as well. So it has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
One quick thing, if you're hearing this, you've listened all the way through. Hopefully that means you really like this podcast because it's pretty generous to give up 40 odd minutes of your time for it. If that is the case, please leave the show a star rating and a review. It helps me reach so many more people who might also listen all the way through and get some benefit and some support out of it. Not to mention, it puts a real spring in my step to read them. Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the podcast for small business builders with your host, me, Kim Curtin. If you love it, you can say thanks with a star rating and a review. And of course, join the community on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us at Unemployed and Afraid wherever you're hanging out, and I'll see you there.